In a quaint suburban neighborhood, life unfolds at a leisurely pace. The streets are lined with charming homes, each adorned with well-tended gardens and cheerful decorations that reflect the personalities of their owners. However, beneath this picturesque facade lies a complex web of community dynamics, often governed by the Homeowners Association, or HOA. The HOA, tasked with maintaining property values and enforcing community standards, plays a significant role in the lives of residents. Most neighbors appreciate the organization's efforts to keep the neighborhood pristine, but not everyone views its authority as benevolent. Enter Karen, a self-appointed enforcer of the rules, whose passion for order often borders on obsession. Known for her meticulous attention to detail, she has earned a reputation as the HOA Karen, someone whose zealous enforcement can turn minor infractions into major dramas. Karen takes her role seriously and believes it is her duty to uphold the community's standards, even if it means stepping on a few toes along the way. Her presence looms large over the neighborhood, with residents often exchanging wary glances whenever she's around. While some appreciate her dedication to maintaining a perfectly manicured environment, others find her methods intrusive and stifling. For our protagonist, living in this environment has been a mix of tranquility and trepidation. Like many residents, they have learned to navigate the unspoken rules and social nuances of life under Karen's watchful eye. Little did they know that their seemingly uneventful life was about to take an unexpected turn, one that would involve 911 calls and unexpected ally living just upstairs. The day began like any other, with sunlight filtering through the curtains and the sound of birds chirping outside. Our protagonist, eager to enjoy the weekend, decided to host a small gathering for friends. It was nothing extravagant, just a few drinks and laughter among close companions in their backyard. As the afternoon wore on, the cheerful atmosphere filled the air, accompanied by the melodious strains of music drifting from portable speakers. Unbeknownst to them, this innocent celebration would soon catch Karen's attention. A few houses down, she peered out her window, her brow furrowing at the sight of what she deemed an unauthorized gathering. In her mind, it was a blatant disregard for the HOA rules regarding noise levels in gatherings. Her sense of duty kicked in, and before long, she was dialing 911, convinced that action needed to be taken against this flagrant violation. When the call was made, the gathering continued blissfully unaware of Karen's impending intervention. Friends were laughing, sharing stories, and enjoying each other's company without a care in the world. But as sirens echoed in the distance, an unsettling tension began to creep into the atmosphere. The protagonist's joy turned to confusion as they spotted flashing lights through the trees. As they stepped out to investigate, they found themselves face to face with a deputy who had just arrived on the scene. While most would expect a stern warning about noise complaints or gatherings, this deputy had a unique connection to the neighborhood and to the protagonists themselves. Little did they know that what began as a simple get-together was about to spiral into an unexpected confrontation involving an overzealous HOA member and a surprising ally. As the deputy stepped out of his patrol car, Karen emerged from her own home, her demeanor a mix of authority and indignation. With her hands on her hips, she approached the scene like a general surveying a battlefield, ready to take charge. The music from the gathering faded, replaced by an awkward silence as guests exchanged bewildered glances. Karen wasted no time launching into her accusations, pointing a finger toward the group with fervor. "This is a clear violation of HOA rules," she declared, her voice rising above the murmurs of confusion. "You're disturbing the peace. I had to call 911 because this gathering is completely unacceptable." Her tone was laced with righteousness, as if she were single-handedly saving the neighborhood from chaos. The deputy raised an eyebrow, clearly taken aback by Karen's dramatic approach. He turned to our protagonist, who stood there with a mixture of disbelief and embarrassment. "Is this true?" he asked, trying to gauge the situation. The protagonist explained it was merely a small gathering among friends, nothing loud or unruly, just laughter and shared moments meant to foster community. Karen interjected, refusing to let go of her narrative. "It doesn't matter how small it is. Rules are rules," she insisted, her voice unwavering. To her dismay, the deputy began to see the absurdity of the situation. He calmly pointed out that calling 911 for something so trivial was an overreaction, and that there were better ways to address concerns within the community. As Karen's insistence clashed with the deputy's reasoned perspective, tension mounted. What began as a minor neighborhood gathering had escalated into a confrontation between authority and overzealous enforcement, one that would soon reveal just how far Karen was willing to go to assert her control. As the confrontation unfolded, the deputy's calm demeanor began to diffuse the tension that Karen had created. He turned to her, maintaining a polite but firm tone. "Ma'am, it seems this gathering is not posing any actual disturbance. Perhaps we can settle this without involving law enforcement." But just as Karen was about to counter with another complaint, a familiar face emerged from the crowd of guests. It was Mike, the deputy's upstairs neighbor and longtime friend. With a grin, he approached the scene, having overheard snippets of the unfolding drama. "Hey, deputy, what's going on down here?" he called out with an air of casual familiarity. Karen's expression shifted from indignation to confusion as she recognized Mike. "You know him?" she stammered, glancing between the two men as if trying to piece together this unexpected connection. "Of course. We live in the same building," Mike replied with a chuckle, clearly amused by the situation. "I didn't know you were policing our neighborhood gatherings now, Karen." His light-hearted tone contrasted sharply with her rigid demeanor. The deputy nodded in agreement. "Yeah, I'm just checking in on a small get-together here. It's all good, nothing to worry about." He took a moment to exchange pleasantries with Mike before returning his attention to Karen, who was visibly flustered. Suddenly, it dawned on her that her actions had not only drawn unwanted attention, but had also entangled someone in authority who was part of the very community she sought to control. This twist added an unexpected layer to the confrontation, one that made Karen reconsider her approach and left our protagonist feeling both vindicated and bewildered by the turn of events. With Mike's presence adding a layer of familiarity, the atmosphere shifted as the deputy turned his attention back to Karen. She stood there, her earlier confidence now wavering, as the realization settled in that her overreaching tactics were being scrutinized by someone who lived and worked in the same community. "Karen, I understand that you want to maintain a peaceful neighborhood, and that's important," the deputy began, his voice steady yet authoritative. "But calling 911 for a small gathering like this is not appropriate. It's important to approach these situations with a little more tact." Karen's face flushed with indignation as she struggled to regain control of the narrative. "I was just trying to uphold the community's standards," she protested, her voice rising defensively. "Rules are rules, and they should be followed." Mike stepped in, attempting to bridge the gap between Karen's rigid stance and the more relaxed vibe of the gathering. "Come on, Karen. It's just friends having a good time. You can't expect people to never enjoy themselves in their own homes." The deputy nodded in agreement, adding, "We all want to keep our neighborhood pleasant, but there are better ways to handle things than calling the police." He looked directly at Karen, gauging her response. Caught off guard by the unified front of both men, Karen hesitated. The weight of their words sank in, and for a brief moment, she seemed to reconsider her approach. The confrontation had turned from a battle of wills into an opportunity for reflection, a moment where even Karen might ponder if her devotion to rules had overshadowed her sense of community. As silence hung in the air, our protagonist watched this exchange unfold, feeling a mix of relief and curiosity about how this showdown would ultimately resolve itself. As the confrontation unfolded, onlookers began to gather, drawn by the commotion. Neighbors peered from behind curtains, some even stepping out into their yards to catch a glimpse of the unfolding drama. Whispers circulated through the crowd, a mix of amusement and disbelief at Karen's actions. It was a rare moment for the community to witness the infamous HOA Karen in a vulnerable position, and they were curious about how it would all play out. Some residents exchanged knowing glances, having experienced Karen's overreaching tendencies firsthand. "Can you believe she called 911? One neighbor murmured to another, shaking their head with a chuckle. "That's classic Karen." Others chimed in with their own stories of run-ins with her, sharing anecdotes that highlighted her penchant for strict rule enforcement. Amidst the laughter and lighthearted banter, there were also voices of concern. A few neighbors approached the deputy, expressing gratitude for his presence and intervention. "We appreciate you looking out for us. one older resident said. It's nice to know that someone understands how to handle these situations without escalating them further. As the tension began to dissipate, Karen found herself increasingly isolated. The support she once assumed she had started to wane as more residents sided with the sentiment that community spirit should take precedence over rigid rules. The gathering resumed its cheerful atmosphere, laughter echoing through the yard as guests resumed their conversations. Our protagonist felt a wave of relief wash over them. What had begun as an embarrassing situation had transformed into an unexpected rallying point for neighbors. This incident not only brought them closer together, but also sparked discussions about what it truly meant to be part of a community, one that balances respect for rules with genuine camaraderie. As the atmosphere began to lighten, the deputy turned his attention back to Karen, who was still visibly flustered by the shift in dynamics. "Karen," he said, his tone now more conciliatory, "I understand that you care about maintaining order in the community, but there are appropriate channels for addressing concerns. Perhaps we can work together to ensure everyone understands the rules without escalating matters to this level." For a moment, Karen hesitated, her face a mixture of frustration and contemplation. The support she had once relied on seemed to dwindle as the crowd's laughter and camaraderie surrounded them. In that moment of vulnerability, she took a deep breath, realizing that her overzealous approach may have alienated her from her neighbors rather than fostered community spirit. With a slight nod, she replied, "I suppose I may have overreacted. I just want what's best for our neighborhood." The admission, though reluctant, marked a turning point in the conversation. The deputy smiled gently, encouraged by her willingness to acknowledge the situation. "Then let's focus on open communication moving forward. If you have concerns about gatherings or noise levels, maybe we could set up some informal meetings with residents to discuss these issues together." As Karen processed the suggestion, our protagonist felt an unexpected surge of hope. It appeared this conflict could lead to positive change rather than lingering resentment. The deputy concluded his visit with a friendly reminder to everyone. Community is about support and understanding each other's needs. With that, he exchanged farewells and departed, leaving behind a renewed sense of unity among the neighbors. What began as an awkward confrontation transformed into an opportunity for growth and dialogue, a chance for Karen to redefine her role in the community, while allowing everyone to come together in mutual respect and understanding. In the aftermath of the unexpected confrontation, the neighborhood began to reflect on the culture fostered by the HOA and its implications for community life. The incident with Karen served as a wake-up call, highlighting both the positive and negative aspects of living under such governance. Many residents had long appreciated the HOA's efforts to maintain property values and uphold community standards, believing that rules were essential for a harmonious living environment. However, as conversations unfolded in the days following the incident, it became clear that a more balanced approach was necessary. Neighbors expressed a desire for open dialogue rather than strict enforcement that sometimes felt intrusive. The gathering had transformed into something more than just a social event. It sparked discussions about what it truly meant to be part of a community. People began sharing personal experiences, stories of feeling stifled by overly rigid regulations, and the fear of being reported for minor infractions. It became evident that while rules serve an important purpose, they should never overshadow the spirit of neighborliness and cooperation. Karen's overreaction illuminated a critical lesson. Authority figures within an HOA must lead with empathy and understanding rather than fear and control. Residents voiced their hope that moving forward, leadership would encourage communication and build relationships rather than create divisions. As our protagonist observed this shift in sentiment, they felt a renewed sense of optimism about their neighborhood. The incident had not only exposed the pitfalls of excessive enforcement, but also paved the way for a more inclusive environment where neighbors could connect freely, fostering a community spirit that honored both individual rights and collective well-being. It was a reminder that at its best, an HOA should be a facilitator of community, not an enforcer of isolation. As the dust settled from the incident, our protagonists found themselves reflecting on the series of events that had unfolded. What began as a simple gathering had spiraled into a confrontation that challenged the very fabric of their community. In the weeks that followed, the neighborhood began to embrace a newfound sense of solidarity, transforming the initial embarrassment into an opportunity for growth. Karen's dramatic call to 911 served as a crucial turning point, revealing the importance of balance between community rules and personal freedoms. Residents recognize that while guidelines are essential for maintaining harmony, they should never come at the expense of neighborly connections. This incident emphasized that enforcement should be paired with empathy and understanding to create a welcoming environment. The lessons learned extended beyond just the individuals involved. They resonated throughout the entire neighborhood. Conversations about community expectations became more frequent, encouraging residents to voice their opinions and concerns openly. People began attending HOA meetings with renewed enthusiasm, eager to collaborate on solutions rather than merely comply with rules. For our protagonist, this experience was transformative. They felt empowered to engage more actively in their community, fostering bond with neighbors and advocating for an approach that prioritized communication over confrontation. The deputy's role in defusing the situation also highlighted the importance of having allies within the community who can bridge gaps and facilitate understanding. In conclusion, what might have been a divisive moment ultimately became a catalyst for unity and positive change. The neighborhood emerged from this experience not only with a deeper appreciation for one another, but also with a commitment to building a community rooted in respect, support, and collaboration. A reminder that true community thrives when we prioritize connection over compliance.